Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are, welcome. I'm Simon Geisbühler. I'm heading the Human Security Division of the Swiss Federal Department of Foreign Affairs. I'm very pleased to welcome all of you to this high-level event on prevention of atrocities on the occasion of the handover of the GAAMAC chair from Switzerland to Argentina, from my colleague Mo Bleeker to Mrs. Silvia Fernández de Gurmendi. GAAMAC is a relatively young political initiative, but it already has a tremendous track record. In 2008, Switzerland and Argentina decided to realize a series of regional meetings on the prevention of genocide. At the end of these 4 meetings, it became evident that it was crucial to mobilize political will at national level, to overcome the silo mentality, and to join efforts among all member states and communities engaged in the prevention of the most serious crimes, and to make prevention a reality on the ground. Argentina, Switzerland, and Tanzania decided to convene other states and civil society organizations in Arusha in December 2013 on how to better address existing gaps and join efforts to prevent atrocities. During that 3-day meeting in 2013, all participants, state representatives and civil society organizations decided to create the platform for prevention, the global action against mass atrocity crimes, GAAMAC. GAAMAC is a global state-led initiative composed of states, civil society, and academic institutions that pledge to prevent atrocities by supporting states to establish national prevention architectures and policies. The mandate of this inclusive and cooperative platform is to support states in their effort to develop national prevention policies and appropriate mechanisms to prevent atrocities as a permanent endeavor through education, early detection, analysis, decisions, and actions, always in collaboration with civil society. The founding document of GAAMAC states, "No society is immune, and prevention begins at home." In other words, all players are asked to join efforts and promote atrocity prevention. As a platform, GAAMAC also invites each of us to overcome silos and to work in a multidisciplinary cooperation setup. I am particularly thankful to Her Excellency High Commissioner for Human Rights, Michelle Bachelet, who have accepted our invitation today. Your participation, Madam President, is an honor for GAAMAC, an honor for Argentina and Switzerland, and an honor for both the outgoing and incoming chairs. But most importantly, your presence is a message in itself. Prevention of atrocities is a permanent endeavor, and human rights are one of its crucial key pillars. Indeed, your office and the Human Rights Council play a crucial role in the promotion and realization of prevention. No society is immune, and by joining forces, we can make a difference. Together, we can make prevention a reality. Madam High Commissioner, I'm very honored to give you the floor for your keynote speech.
Thank you, Ambassador. Greetings to all of you. I am honored to speak at this event. Let me start by thanking the outgoing chair, Ambassador Mo Bleeker, as well as the incoming chair, Ambassador Silvia Fernández de Gurmendi, 2 formidable women whose pursuit of justice and accountability is truly admirable. Atrocity crimes are aggravated forms of human rights violations, and preventing serious human rights violations from occurring is vital to preventing mass atrocities. To ensure that we devise the most effective action to prevent atrocity crimes, we need to redouble our efforts to understand the factors that lead up to these situations. This topic has been the object of considerable work by the UN human rights bodies. In July this year, 15 years after the agreement about our common responsibility to protect, the Human Rights Council adopted Resolution 44/14, underscoring the urgency of promptly addressing situations where there is a risk of genocide, war crimes, ethnic cleansing, or crimes against humanity. In March, the report presented by a group of experts examining the Council's contribution to the prevention of human rights violations, emphasized the importance of moving the focus of preventing work upstream well before their potential commission. This is even more urgent for atrocity prevention. To be most effective, there needs to be a consistent, coherent approach that identifies and tackles the seed of hatred before they can grow or be cultivated into the resentment and bitter divisions that can escalate into crisis. As the Secretary General emphasizes in his landmark call to action for human rights, there is a well-documented correlation between a society's enjoyment of and commitment to human rights and its resilience to crisis. Structural prevention aims to rectify systemic deficiencies and thus reduce the likelihood of violations. This long-term approach is necessarily based in human rights. We know that many outbreaks of violence, conflict, and mass atrocity have roots in long-standing discrimination, economic inequalities, social exclusion, and denial of economic and social rights. Several truth commissions created to deal with legacies of massive human rights violations have found that victims of violation of civil and political rights belong to marginalized populations that suffer socioeconomic inequalities long before the outbreak of violence. The human rights monitoring conducted by my office across the globe confirms this. Severe inequalities, including unequal access to essential resources and jobs, particularly in combination with lack of access to justice, failure to enable participation, and a shrinking democratic and civic space, are significant risk factors for tensions and conflict. This is particularly the case when discrimination based on ethnicity, religion, or any other characteristic is an underlying factor. Civil society is key to atrocity prevention and to voicing demands for accountability. In situations of protracted conflict or long-standing repressive regimes, the fundamental freedoms of civil society are frequently violated, with restrictions on the civic space and serious security constraints. In this situation, networks of solidarity between civil society organizations, including across the region, can help to strengthen prevention work. With the strong efforts to bring together a wide range of actors, including state, civil society, and others, GAAMAC has set a signal for the usefulness and centrality of the inclusion of civil society, forging alliances for prevention work that can effectively be undertaken and enforced at the domestic level. Colleagues and friends, the UN human rights system, including my office, continuously works to alert the international community to potential situations where atrocity crimes may become a concern. The core of our work consists of identifying structural gaps in human rights protection by states and providing advice and assistance to contribute to resolving those issues, preventing longer-term harms. The COVID-19 pandemic and accompanying recession has magnified the visibility of these structural gaps and their impact across society. It has become inescapably obvious that structural discrimination and the failure to support systems for universal healthcare, social protection, and other human rights are little and harm all of society. I am hopeful that this tragic demonstration of the profound protective value of the human rights-based approach will lead to broader action to uphold rights in practice, including civil, political, economic, social, and cultural rights. By building solid human rights protections into their recovery efforts, states can invest in upstream prevention with a specific and radical focus on detecting and eliminating socioeconomic inequalities and marginalization. The UN human rights system also contributes to the non-recurrence of violations through the deterrent effect of international attention by identifying root causes and accelerators of serious human rights violation, including in the socioeconomic sphere, by identifying perpetrators and collecting information on human rights violations, by raising perpetrators' awareness about the consequences of their acts, and by recommending specific actions for accountability and transitional justice, including reparation for victims. The rapporteurs who recently examined the Human Rights Council's preventive work advocated greater emphasis on the preventive impact of investigative bodies, be they fact-finding mission, group of experts, high-level missions, or commissions of inquiry. So far, only the mandate of the Commission of Human Rights in South Sudan explicitly acknowledges this prevention role. The Commission of Inquiry in Burundi clearly illustrated this preventive potential. Using the UN framework of analysis for atrocity crimes developed by the Office on Genocide Prevention and the Responsibility to Protect, its reports warned that all 8 common risk factors were present in Burundi, in particular ahead of the elections in May this year. This starkly clarified the gravity of the situation and the risk of escalation. Using human rights analysis with an atrocity prevention lens assists in generating early action, both in the country concerned and internationally. There is also a strong link between the work of investigative bodies on accountability and the prevention of atrocity crimes. Several independent investigative bodies have in recent years examined the link between systemic impunity and the recurrence of atrocity crimes, strongly advocating for justice and accountability to break such cycles. The Commission of Inquiry on the Central African Republic and the Commission on Human Rights in South Sudan both focus a great deal of work on those points. Based on in-depth analysis of systemic impunity for serious human rights violations in Myanmar and how this has enabled repeated atrocity crimes, the fact-finding mission on Myanmar in 2018 already concluded that accountability is the key to any sustainable peace in the country. I want to emphasize the importance of national action plans for the prevention, which must have a guarantee of access to justice and remedy at their core. States have the primary responsibility to deliver justice and accountability and prevent violations and crimes. And I call on each state to consider how it can also contribute to accountability for atrocity crimes committed in other states, including through supporting the work of the UN and also exercising universal jurisdiction. In this regard, I'm closely following the case brought by the Gambia against Myanmar before the International Court of Justice on the basis of alleged violations of the Convention on the Prevention and Punishment of the Crime of Genocide. This case will certainly increase our understanding of the role that states must play in preventing and punishing acts of genocide. To prevent recurrence requires us to go beyond establishing the guilt of specific perpetrators and passing a sentence. Effective accountability must encompass the need to acknowledge and take responsibility for the violations of victims' rights so that their rights can be restored and their right to remedy satisfied. Victims have rights to truth, justice, reparation, and a comprehensive package of guarantees of non-recurrence, which all will assist in preventing future crimes. To this end, grievances of victims and affected communities must be redressed and their needs addressed. From my own experience in working with victims of the dictatorship and ensuring that we preserve their memory, I see this reparative and empowering aspect as crucial, notably for children and young people. There is also a powerful link between prevention and truth-seeking, memorialization, and longer-term efforts of education, notably history education that acknowledge the reality of what has occurred. A country's approach to past atrocity can be transformative, as we have seen repeatedly in recent history. Broader accountability measures can assist this transformation by addressing the injustice of the past to secure an equitable and just future. It must reach to, but also beyond, the specific crimes committed and address systemic deficiencies in state structures that have enabled serious human rights violations and abuses. It is only by inscribing accountability in a broader transformative agenda that it can fully realize its preventive potential. The Human Rights Council recently mandated our office to prepare a series of 3 reports to be presented in 2021 and 2022, which I hope will deepen our contribution to this work. A first report will focus on strengthening capacities for genocide prevention. A second will examine best practices to strengthen national policies to implement the responsibility to protect. And the third will look at the contribution of the Human Rights Council to the prevention of human rights violations. These reports and the broad consultation they will involve will provide excellent opportunities to advance our collective understanding of successful atrocity prevention. Colleague friend, I have sought to highlight the importance of upstream, the preventive potential of human rights investigations, and the contributions that a richer and broader notion of accountability can make to the prevention of atrocity. I hope that a stronger emphasis on these 3 elements can assist in strengthening the development of prevention action plans and ultimately the prevention of mass atrocities. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Madam High Commissioner. Thank you for highlighting the root causes and accelerators of atrocities, the relevance of human rights and civil society in prevention, and what has been done so far in prevention, truth-seeking, accountability and justice, and what should and could be done in the future. Thank you so much again. And now, Ambassador Villegas, you have the floor.
Thank you very much. Good morning, good afternoon to all. And thank you for being here in this meeting. Atrocity prevention is a task that involves each society and the international community as a whole. For 300 years, international law did not address the cruelty and suffering of people victims of atrocities. It was not a matter of another state how cruel a ruler could be with the people under the jurisdiction of each state. And it's international human rights law that changed this path. The protection of rights of all human beings is an international responsibility, regardless of their nationality. But this international law is very new, only 75 years. So probably we will have 300 more years of progressive development of international human rights law. Since so many injustices and inequalities, abuses and discrimination continue to occur, as the High Commissioner has mentioned, some of which, for not being prevented on time, could end up in atrocities. The work of the Human Rights Council, the Office of the High Commissioner of Human Rights, under the strong leadership of Madame Bachelet, all independent experts and special procedures we have in the Council and the human rights treaty bodies, they all represent the mechanism that we all decided to create to continue developing the international social contract, which is international human rights law. When we take a look at the issues discussed, the diagnosis made and the debates within the UN human rights bodies, we realize all the time that there is a long road ahead for protecting human rights at a universal level. And many of the pending issues that we need to address are directly related to the prevention of atrocities. Why? This is because we all know that atrocities are not committed overnight. Each atrocity is a process with different stages. And our role with the UN human rights mechanisms is to help all countries prevent not only the final stage of an atrocity, but also each step and prevent the escalation from one step to the next, like the example of the High Commissioner gave on the risks that were assessed in a specific commission. This is our role. What we do is develop a vaccine, since we are all talking about vaccines and COVID. What we are trying to do is develop a vaccine to prevent atrocities. GAAMAC is a platform to cooperate in helping countries develop, through cooperation, their own vaccine. The parallel with the vaccine is very relevant because an atrocity is committed where the social tissue of a society is sick and damaged. And this sickness has to be reversed through national strategies, starting from education at an early age, the inclusion of human rights law and standards within national law, the presence of strong institutions that are aware of the responsibility of public officials, especially those entitled with the use of force in respecting human rights and refraining from abuses. And of course, what the High Commissioner just mentioned, how do we deal with our past? Each society, especially the ones that had recent past atrocities, have to develop their own vaccine to deal with their past and prevent future atrocities. And of course, memory, truth, justice, reparation are the pillars for eradicating and preventing atrocities. But we have to be careful. We need to each country address each of these steps according to their own context and historical and political context, as long as we are in the right direction. Finally, since I had the pleasure and the privilege with Mo and others to be in that founding meeting in 2013, when we created GAAMAC, as a platform to exchange best practices and foster cooperation to develop a common knowledge of the best strategies to create this vaccine, we should think that this vaccine of the prevention of atrocities should be a public good. And for us, this is the path that GAAMAC is starting and continuing today. Argentina is honored to take the torch of GAAMAC, and in the person of a very strong, capable a woman like Silvia Fernández de Gurmendi, and we are ready to strengthen our partnership with Switzerland in the prevention of atrocities, enhancing the core group of government, academia, and civil society that can develop a strong platform for the benefit of all countries. Thank you very much, and I'm privileged to be sharing with you this Zoom. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Ambassador Villegas, for your words. You have underlined that atrocities are a process, and as you said so beautifully, we want and we are trying to develop through cooperation a vaccine against atrocities. And thank you so much to Argentina for taking over the chair of GAAMAC. And now I would like to pass the floor to Mo Bleeker, our special envoy for dealing with the past and the prevention of atrocities at the Swiss Federal Department of Foreign Affairs. As you know, Mo has served as GAAMAC chair for the past 7 years, and today passes this important role to Argentina and to Judge Silvia Fernández de Gurmendi. Please, Mo, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Simon Geisbühler, dear colleague. Let me first thank Madame Bachelet, High Commissioner, for her excellent keynote and all her efforts to promote one of the essential pillars of prevention, human rights. Thank you also to my two colleagues and friends, Federico and Jörg, who have been so supportive and have agreed to host this event. I'm very happy, actually, to be here for this chair handover. In fact, I've been looking forward to this very moment since GAAMAC was created in 2013. Why? Because for GAAMAC, indeed, this is a very important signal, very important milestone, attesting to the credibility of this initiative. From Switzerland to Argentina, the chair passes now to Mrs. Fernández de Gurmendi. Silvia, I'm very honored that a personality of your stature has agreed to take over this role. You will do wonders, as you have done in your brilliant career, always. I therefore feel at this very moment a deep sense of satisfaction, a sense of accomplishment, and with you, I'm proud of the road we have traveled together and that we will continue to go along. Let me first, dear colleagues all over the world who are here with us, share a little bit of GAAMAC history, even if you have heard already some little hints of this history. In 2008, Silvia and I met while working together on the Nuremberg Declaration on Justice and Peace. We shared our concerns about the numerous blockages that prevention was facing at the multilateral level. We decided actually that it was time to listen to the many opinions, lessons learned, experiences, visions and narratives on genocide prevention and the responsibility to protect from the field, and to ensure that these multiple narratives on prevention in actions would also be listened to. This is how in December 2008, the first regional forum on genocide prevention took place in Buenos Aires. 2008, 2020, 12 years. In 2008, we had an extraordinary level of participation from 18 Latin American governments, civil society, academia. Francis Deng was there, Edward Lack, among others. And the results were convincing and are still valid. Prevention experiences were taking place on the ground. Some had even succeeded in preventing the commission of atrocities. Participants said that it was necessary to develop a narrative of prevention success, that dialogue and cooperation between government, experts, and civil society are absolutely crucial to achieving tangible results. Participants also stressed that this effort must become permanent. The results of the other three following forums in Tanzania, Switzerland, and Cambodia were similar. In the opinion of the participants, there was a urgent need for cooperation among all prevention actors beyond ideological or programmatic affiliations. Moreover, the creation of several parallel networks at this time, each with its own thematic focus, was a concrete example of how working in silos was certainly becoming a counterproductive practice. We were very inspired by these observations, impressed also by the ownership and desire to move forward with concrete prevention strategies on the ground. And with the complicity of Ambassador Liberata Mulamula and the Tanzanian government, we invited some of the main leaders of the R2P community and genocide prevention coalitions to a retreat in Arusha in 2013. The central question at this time was to be addressed was simple. The prevention of atrocity is urgent. What can we do together to make prevention a reality on the ground for the implementation of multiple domestic strategies where national actors are centrally involved and their results on the ground tangible and in turn useful at the multilateral and regional levels? It's during this retreat, as Simon Gasbühler was saying before, that participants decided to launch the Global Action Against Mass Atrocity Crimes, a joint platform of prevention where civil society, academia, and governments cooperate to strengthen the capacity of each society to develop its own domestic strategies and architecture for atrocity prevention in complementarity with international work. By choosing the overarching term atrocities, it allowed us to unite the efforts of all those working on prevention under different labels. Little by little, this space for dialogue has emerged as a necessary, horizontal, inclusive, and cooperative space for reflection, for joint learning and for joint action, complementary to existing networks. Our founding document insists that no society is immune to atrocities and that prevention begins at home. Actually, as Ambassador Federico Villegas was saying, the act of committing mass atrocities is part of a long-term process. It requires preparation. It requires premeditation. Calls for hatred, discrimination, racism, incitement to violence, non-recognition of election results, for example, are some of the signals to be taken very seriously that can lead to the commission of atrocities. By taking these early indicators seriously and by acting upstream, we know that it is indeed possible to prevent context from becoming conducive to the commission of atrocity. States have a central responsibility in this regard and can count, of course, on the cooperation of many civil society actors in the academia to help them in this endeavor. The strengthening of institutions promoting respect for human rights and the rule of law are, among others, crucial and fundamental pillars. But it must be noted that we are far away from having succeeded. Here in Europe, for example, we hear calls for hatred, and we witness violence against particular communities because of their ethnic, spiritual, or even political affiliation. Sometimes also with the support of the highest political leadership. The resurgence of movements claiming to be affiliated with Nazism, for example, or the crimes committed under the pretext of an exclusive and or fundamentalist nature, the weaponization of social medias. All these elements, among others, show us how much work we still have to do here and now. In addition, when the Security Council is paralyzed in the face of extreme situations, such as Syria, Yemen, Myanmar, not to mention the recent tragedies in Srebrenica, Rwanda, the situation of the Yazidi, and so many minorities in different countries. We may ask ourselves whether we, the international community, do really understand what prevention is about. Do we understand that when the house is burning, it is already too late? We all know that if we act timely, it is much easier and maybe much more successful and less costly. So why is it so difficult? There is a lot of work to be done to develop a prevention pedagogy, to encourage prevention, to make prevention a reality on the ground, and to show the concrete results of prevention. This is, ladies and gentlemen, the raison d'être of GAAMAC, and this effort is urgent. I'm proud to underline also that in addition to its function as a platform, GAAMAC has also produced tangible results in the field. 3 regional GAAMAC groups are working hard. The Africa Working Group has already produced a manual for the creation of national mechanism for the prevention of atrocities and is now developing a prototype course on this subject for public servants. The Asia Pacific Working Group is producing a report looking at good practices and lessons learned in the area of hate speech, discrimination, and incitement to violence in the Asian context. It will also contain public policy recommendation. The Americas Working Group is working on another report about the importance of gender-informed prevention strategies. It will also include public policy recommendation. And furthermore, while our 4th global meeting has been postponed until November 2021 due to COVID-19, during 2020, a large number of webinars and conversations have brought together different prevention networks and actors to talk about the role of social media, for example, in preparing conditions conducive to atrocities, notably through the propagation of hate speech. All these meetings will provide tangible recommendation for the global meeting in November 21, and important regional and multilateral organizations, government and key actors are contacting now GAAMAC to exchange, learn, and become part of this community of commitment. As Federico Beltran was saying, it's somehow becoming a common good. I'm also hopeful that funders will seriously begin to invest in prevention. Ladies and gentlemen, GAAMAC is building actually further on the efforts of many precursors who began the work long before us. I would like to salute here a great young man born in 1926 who has done and continues to do pioneering work in the prevention of genocide. A man who honors me with his friendship and his trust, Yehuda Bauer. Yehuda, you inspire us to continue this work of prevention of all genocides, of all atrocities. Thank you for your vibrant example. A word of gratitude also for a great friend, my brother Adama Dieng, the former special advisor to the UN Secretary General on the prevention of genocide, and Karen Smith, the special advisor on the responsibility to protect, and their team with whom we have worked so wonderfully and will continue to work. And a very, very warm welcome to Adama's successor, Alice Vairimun Deritu, the new special advisor to the UN Secretary General on the prevention of genocide, a woman of exceptional qualities with whom we are looking forward to working with. Thank you also to the Department of Foreign Affairs, my colleagues, my government, my boss. You have trusted me, encouraged me to move forward and do everything possible to contribute to prevention. Thank you. I would also like to thank the incredible team of bright young women of the support office, Yelena, Sabrina, Elena, and Anne-Laure, as well as the contribution of each member of the steering group. Together, we have invested a lot in new cooperation culture, in methodology and facilitation. That is, in creating ways and means for better dialogue, for listening, real cooperation and exchange. During GAAMAC meetings, everyone, wherever one comes from, is an equal partner. Differences of opinion are welcome. Changing opinion during the exchange is also welcome. Consensus are built and results belong to everyone. The GAAMAC culture means that we do name the problems by their name. We recognize them and take responsibility for transforming these problems into opportunities, into solutions. In GAAMAC, we do not point fingers. We encourage each other to do better. But we talk about real difficult issues in an atmosphere of trust. We even agree to disagree, but foremost, we agree to pursue the dialogue. I'm convinced that this GAAMAC culture is key to translate the many words and declarations about prevention into action programs and tangible results on the ground. Violence, ladies and gentlemen, hatred, discrimination, the construction of another enemy, make the death knell of democracy, of citizen confidence, actually the death knell of civilization resonate. The result of these dynamics, where private interests prevail over the common good, where evil is trivialized and the capacity for distraction takes over, is that we are all dehumanized without a present, without a tomorrow. Faced with this, we cannot just remain observers or bystanders. We shall take our responsibility. Practicing prevention adds quality to our democracies. Practicing prevention is giving a chance to what we could call human civilization. It also contributes to a dignified and fair future for each and every one. Finally, prevention is how we can fulfill our duty as citizens of the world and our responsibility as governments. Briefly, I would say this is how we can simply practice being human. Now, as your welcoming present and in conclusion, dear Silvia, I have the immense pleasure of gifting you and the GAAMAC community the latest edition of Politorbis. This last edition of the Political Journal of the Federal Department of Foreign Affairs has brought together several dozen of magnificent authors from all continents and all disciplines. They share in-depth reflection on the current challenges of atrocity prevention, as well as their recommendations. Thank you, Silvia. Thank you to each member of the steering group, to you all here with us virtually from so many places in the world. And finally, thank you to each and every one of you for the trust you have placed in me over these 7 years and all the great work accomplished together. Thank you very much. Over to you, Simon.
Thank you so much, Mo, for these words, for your remarks. And of course, thank you so much for your passionate commitment to the prevention of mass atrocities during the past 7 years as GAAMAC chair. We are now going to see a video about GAAMAC and its contribution to atrocity prevention, featuring different voices from the community.
GAAMAC est né comme un cadre pour tous ceux qui ont un rôle institutionnel dans la prévention des atrocités, pour se rencontrer, partager leurs expériences, discuter des défis et explorer les options de coopération sur la base de la valeur ajoutée de chaque individu ou institution.
We saw there was this gap, there was a missing link in all these initiatives.
We did need a place where states and civil society, academia could talk about these issues together.
The idea was and is to establish an intergovernmental and international civilian network.
We all agreed that one single platform can help all of us to be able to form synergies, to share the regional experiences, learn from the best practices, but also ensure no genocide again.
Au fur et à mesure que la plateforme a évolué, notre compréhension du domaine des actions liées à la prévention des atrocités criminelles a évolué, ce qui a amené de nouveaux acteurs dans la conversation.
GAAMAC really brought together a diverse group of individuals.
GAAMAC brings together senior leaders from government, from different governments, but also brings together leaders from civil society, and it allows them to connect, to share information, to build partnerships that simply you can't do anywhere else.
C'est un mode de fonctionnement que ne vous retrouvez pas forcément dans une diplomatie classique.
The energy at GAAMAC meetings, from the first meeting in Costa Rica to Philippines to Uganda, have been electrifying.
What was really unique about GAAMAC is that it allows you to have conversation. You as a civil society organization aren't asking for any one ask that relates to your programs, but rather you're having broader strategic conversations about how to take the shared interest in atrocity prevention and move that forward as a larger agenda.
Il n'y a pas de plateforme avec une capacité de rassemblement aussi large et profonde que GAAMAC.
We decided to say, let's have something that would also reflect the best practices. And now we have a manual that has been published, and we are now in the process of conducting training, making it known and be used as a tool for prevention, as a tool of establishing national mechanisms.
Lorsque je participais aux activités de GAAMAC 3, j'ai rencontré le même schéma de travail et de collaboration entre les représentants des pouvoirs publics, soit des États et de la société civile.
Concretely, last year we were able to contribute a bit to the discourse and to the experience by conducting a research on hate speech in the Philippines.
GAAMAC is an aspiration. It is in a way a dream, that it's a big tent which involves everybody, which is inclusive.
We can agree to disagree, but at the end of the day, we can and we should work together.
I think that Argentina is very well placed to become a leader and to give continuity to this big effort and important effort.
One of the things that strikes me with GAAMAC is that there's been strong female leadership. I would love to see gender be even more centered in future GAAMAC conversations, in the global meetings themselves.
I see GAAMAC as really being able to break down the silos and enlarge the coalition of actors.
GAAMAC more actively engaged at the national level.
I hope GAAMAC will continue the good work that has been done so far, including under the current chair. There's a need for GAAMAC. I'm convinced of that.
GAAMAC peut être un espace où certains d'entre nous, dans la communauté internationale, peuvent coordonner le soutien ou donner une visibilité aux efforts de la base, là où le risque est plus élevé, là où résident les communautés les plus vulnérables. Je ne peux que saluer le travail inlassable du président sortant, mon ami, mon Bleeker.
She was the engine, she was the energy.
Don't tell her that. I think she's a wonderful, wonderful personality.
Mo, thank you. I've learned a lot from you, and I think the entire community, not just civil society in Canada, but across the world, thanks you.
Your leadership has been instrumental and tremendous.
I wish we could meet in person to express my gratitude, our gratitude to your leadership, to celebrate you, to thank you.
Pour tout le travail qu'elle a accompli le long de ces années.
For your commitment, for your passion.
Mo Bleeker showed her mastership.
She has been an inspiration to all of us.
I will call her the lady with the flame. I think everybody in GAAMAC should thank her for the leadership she provided. It's wonderful.
Quant à la nouvelle présidente Silvia Fernández de Gurmendi, je peux seulement dire que son parcours et son expérience ne peuvent qu'enrichir le travail accompli jusqu'à présent.
I congratulate her.
We look forward to working with you.
And I'm hoping that under the leadership of Silvia, we are able to take this initiative forward and include even more people around the world.
All kinds of good luck and appreciation that she wants to take up this very important job.
We look forward, I look forward.
Je me réjouis, Silvia.
Mo Bleeker will hand over the responsibility of the chair to Ms. Silvia Fernández of Argentina, and this is a new beginning, but this is a continuum.
I now give the floor to Silvia Fernández de Gurmendi, the former president of the International Criminal Court and special representative of Argentina to the International Holocaust Remembrance Alliance. Please, Silvia.
Thank you, Senora Bachelet, for your impressive keynote speech and your presence here today. Greetings to all. All of us have a responsibility to ask ourselves what we can do to prevent the commission of the most serious crimes against populations. I am deeply grateful for this opportunity of assuming my own part of this responsibility as the new chair of this Global Alliance for the Prevention of Mass Atrocities, the GAAMAC. I thank Switzerland and all the members of the steering group of the GAAMAC for placing the trust and confidence in me and Argentina to continue the extraordinary work of my predecessor and dear friend, Mo Bleker. I am humbled by the task and deeply grateful to Mo, as she has been at the origin of all the initiatives that led to the founding of GAAMAC in 2013, as well as its chair and driving force since then. I cannot really expect to be able to replace her, but I can and do commit myself to continue her hard work to the best of my abilities. I know I can count on her continuing cooperation. There is not such thing as stepping down from prevention. I also know that I can count on the support of the esteemed members of the steering group, the support office, and the association for the support office of the GAAMAC to guide me in the challenging task ahead. As it has been recalled today, GAAMAC is a platform intended to promote initiatives and foster the political will of states to enshrine in their national agendas appropriate preventive policies and mechanisms. We know from experience that atrocities do not happen overnight, but that they are the outcome of long processes that can and must be prevented. The precursors of violence, which include racism, xenophobia, anti-Semitism, Islamophobia, and other forms of discrimination, intolerance, and exclusion, are also well known, and we have already many of the tools necessary to identify and combat them. Indeed, in the last 70 years, we have developed an impressive set of standards, procedures, and institutions to fight discrimination and other forms of violations of human rights and international humanitarian law. In the last 3 decades in particular, we have also developed more effective means and rigorous methodologies to investigate and determine facts and collect and safeguard evidence of violations. Most importantly, we have established courts and tribunals and multiplied proceedings to ensure individual accountability for the gravest crimes. After years of sustained justice initiatives, a global system of justice is gradually emerging, which combines national, international, and hybrid proceedings against the perpetrators of atrocities. These are all huge and encouraging developments. The fact that calls for accountability for atrocity crimes have now become the norm is probably the biggest achievement of the last 3 decades for the prevention and the promotion of the rule of law. And yet, atrocity crimes continue to happen today, at this very moment, in various regions of the world. It is clear that despite some achievements, we continue to lack the required awareness and political will to adopt and maintain in each of our countries the necessary architecture to combat the underlying causes of violence on a permanent basis before they escalate into conflict and massive crimes. Prevention is a long-term endeavor. It requires remembrance to honor past victims and understand why they suffered. It requires a long-term investment in education to help generations to learn from each other and to enhance the resilience of populations against simplistic messages of intolerance and hatred. It requires effective policies, laws, and mechanisms to warn and react in a timely manner against the first signals of violence. Last but not least, it requires appropriate accountability mechanisms in order to ensure the responsibility of the gravest perpetrators. History teaches us, and current developments demonstrate, that no society is immune to atrocities. Wherever they happen, they affect us all, directly or indirectly, as they shake stability and peace across borders and regions. In our interdependent world, prevention of mass atrocities is not only a moral and legal imperative, it is also in self-interest, as no society can expect to lead a peaceful and prosperous life when entire communities continue to be devastated by violence and conflicts elsewhere. As we approach the 70th anniversary of the Convention related to the refugees, we cannot but recall that over the past decade, outbreaks of violence, fighting, and conflict have forced millions of people to flee their homes and have generated the massive displacement of people, not only towards neighboring countries, but also towards other regions and continents. No society is immune, and no society can fight atrocities and its consequences by itself. Regional and international collaboration and coordination is needed, and GAAMAC hopes to contribute to such collaboration among all relevant actors. While GAAMAC is a state-led initiative, it recognizes that in our diversified world, not only states, but also non-state actors, including not only civil society organizations, but also the private sector and big technology companies, have a huge role to play to prevent the dissemination of hatred in all its forms. The steering group of GAAMAC unites both state and non-state actors and also seeks to enlarge its network by liaising effectively with other states, organizations, and institutions. And of course, in this multilateral effort, the relation with the United Nations is of paramount importance. We celebrate the emphasis placed on prevention by the Secretary General, and we are grateful in particular for the close and productive relation with his Office on Genocide Prevention and the Responsibility to Protect, and his special advisors, Adama Dieng and Karen Smith. In particular, and like Mo Bleker before me, I wish to extend my warm thanks and farewell to my dear friend, Adama Dieng. I also wish to congratulate and express my best wishes to his successor, Alice Wairimu Neteritu. I look forward to continuing our good work with her and her office. I also wish to thank the High Commissioner for Human Rights and her office for the fundamental work they accomplish in the area of prevention. I wholeheartedly thank Ms. Bachelet for her participation and important statement in this event today. I hope we can contribute to her efforts from GAAMAC and wish to reiterate our willingness to cooperate with her and her office to the largest extent possible. Today, upon the closure of this inaugural event, the work of GAAMAC shall resume. We will start a 3-day virtual retreat in which we will discuss, in particular, our vision, strategies, and activities for the next 3 years. We know where we come from. Now we need to determine what we think we must and can accomplish in this future period, and also reflect on how the institutional structure of GAAMAC should be reinforced in order for the platform to achieve its goals. I look forward to listening to our members' thoughts and initiatives. And in this regard, I also thank Mo for gathering the reflections and recommendations of a larger community in this publication that she has assembled as a departure and more than welcome gift. Thank you, Mo. I am confident that these ideas will also contribute to enrich our exchanges at the steering group. I am thrilled to become the new chair of GAAMAC and eager to resume its good work. I am eager to work together with all of you. I thank you for your attention.
Thank you so much, Silvia. I'm happy that I'm the first one to officially congratulate you on your new mandate as GAAMAC chair. We look forward to continue working with you. Ambassador Jörg Glauber, you have now the floor.
Thank you very much, Simon. Excellencies, dear colleagues, it is indeed a great honor for me to offer some concluding remarks for this high-level event on the occasion of the handover of the chairwomanship of GAAMAC. It is also a particular and very personal pleasure to be here with, first of all, our keynote speaker, a hero of mine, but also with two very close and long-time friends, Mo and Silvia, both of whom we are honoring today. Dear friends, prevention is a central issue here in Geneva, and it is very dear to Switzerland. I think you got that idea. Advancing the respect, promotion, and protection of human rights is at the core of upstream prevention work, and we are continuously working at strengthening the contribution of the Geneva-based human rights institutions in this regard. As you know, the Human Rights Council just recently passed a resolution on this topic, which we hope will enhance the contribution of the Human Rights Council to the prevention of human rights violations. Just like human rights, the atrocity prevention agenda is universal. We've heard it before, no society is immune. Efforts are required everywhere and anytime to ensure that any risk and any seed of violence is addressed swiftly and effectively. Every state has the responsibility to protect their population from genocide, war crimes, ethnic cleansing, and crimes against humanity. But unfortunately, too often, states act too late, and the UN system and its member states fail in early warning and adequate action. GAAMAC offers a unique addition in helping states to take up their responsibility for prevention. It is a platform that is not a space for the dialogue amongst the like-minded, but an open and trusted space for difficult conversations about difficult issues. It adds the unique perspective of hands-on, practical and upstream prevention efforts from the national perspectives from a wide variety of actors. Linking up these experiences and expertise horizontally is valuable, and it enriches our multilateral efforts substantially when effective channels for sharing relevant information are found. Today's discussion is an excellent example of this mutually beneficial interaction. I want to thank you, High Commissioner, for putting so much emphasis in your keynote speech, but of course, most importantly, in your daily work on accountability and its importance for successful prevention. I appreciate that my friend, Ambassador Federico Villegas' reference to accountability being a vaccine to atrocity crimes. I only regret that we don't apply the vaccine more systematically. Thank you, Mo, for recalling the history of GAAMAC, which I believe illustrated the variety of actors involved, and in particular, I liked how you underlined and stressed the need to act with great respect for specific contexts. And last but certainly not least, thank you, Silvia, for your reflections about how much work still lies ahead of us, and certainly for taking over the GAAMAC presidency. Argentina has been a steadfast partner of Switzerland here in Geneva and of course elsewhere. Here we have worked closely together for more than a decade, in particular on issues of transitional justice. And today, Switzerland hands over the chairwomanship of GAAMAC, but we will remain a strong and dedicated partner. We look forward to pursuing working with you and the entire GAAMAC community. So let me once again congratulate you, Silvia, for taking this over and wish you wholehearted the best of success. On behalf of Switzerland, let me thank all those who have offered remarks today, and in particular, again, our keynote speaker, the High Commissioner, Michelle Bachelet. And thank you also to all participants who have joined us today from near and far. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Jörg. I want to again express, as Jörg just did, my thanks to all of our speakers today for making this virtual event possible. And I'm looking forward to this new chapter in the history of GAAMAC. I also want to thank everyone who watched this event online and send my greetings to the GAAMAC community. Thank you so much and goodbye.